Hey everyone, this is Marcel with Leadership from the Core. Here's today's video blog, one of the most important traits of servant leadership. You know, a lot of people ask us, well, what does it take to be a servant leader? Not exactly a question we can just answer on the fly, and certainly one we just cannot address in one short video blog. But here's a great start. While there are lots of things that define a great servant leader, and we have a whole array of case studies and even our own methodology behind how we develop servant leaders covers many of those things. One of the most important things about servant leaders is that they have great self-awareness. And that means, Mr. Chicken, having self-awareness of your bad qualities as well, so you can do something about it. You know, there are countless books written on the topic by thought leaders about self-awareness, which, if you're a student of emotional intelligence and you're keeping up with the research by the likes of Daniel Goleman and Peter Salovey and others, it falls into one of the quadrants of emotional intelligence. And most of these thought leaders are saying that self-awareness is one of the most important capabilities for leaders to develop. A mentor of mine once said, "It's what you don't know about yourself that controls you." Boy, let me tell you, he was spot on. Some people, they just don't have a clue as to their real effect on others. Here's a little case study for you. Back in 2007, Harvard Business Review conducted a study where they interviewed 125 top leaders to determine common traits of the servant leader. And of all the leaders they interviewed, this guy, David Pottruck, he is the former CEO of Charles Schwab. He had one of the most persistent journeys to self-awareness. I wonder if this picture we pulled from Google Images made his Facebook Throwback Thursday status. Nice suit there, David. But listen to this great story of David's leadership journey. He was an all-league football player in high school, an MVP of his college team at the University of Pennsylvania, and after completing his MBA at Wharton, he worked up the ranks through Citigroup, and then he joined Charles Schwab as head of marketing before he became CEO. Very, very hard worker. And Pottruck was telling the story about he just could not understand why his new colleagues resented the long hours he put in and his aggressiveness in pushing for results. He said, "You know, I thought my accomplishments would speak for themselves. It never occurred to me that my level of energy would intimidate and even offend other people, because in my mind, I was trying to help the company." So Pottruck was shocked when his boss pulled him aside and said, "Hey Dave, I got to tell you something. You know, your colleagues, I hate to break it to you, but they don't trust you." And as he recalled, that feedback was like a dagger to my heart. I was in denial as I didn't see myself as others saw me. I became a lightning rod for friction, but I had no idea how self-serving I looked to other people. Still, somewhere in my inner core, the feedback resonated with me. Pottruck realized that he could not succeed unless he identified and overcame his blind spots. So he was able to raise his self-awareness. So the lesson here is that sometimes denial can be a great obstacle in the way of becoming self-aware. But when they get over that hurdle and come to a point where they're willing to listen to feedback, especially the kind they don't want to hear, well, great things begin to happen. So back to the story. It was only after his second divorce that Pottruck finally was able to acknowledge that he still had large blind spots. Here's what he said. "After my second marriage fell apart, I thought I had a wife selection problem. Then I worked with a counselor who delivered some hard truths. The good news, Dave," the counselor said, "is you don't have a wife selection problem. The bad news is you have a husband behavior problem." Pottruck then made a determined effort, at that point, that, he's going to change. And as he described it, "I was like a guy who's had 3 heart attacks and finally realizes he has to quit smoking and lose some weight." So, a lot of leaders don't want to listen to the ideas, opinions, and constructive feedback of others. It's just hard to acknowledge something that may be true because, well, truth sometimes hurts, right? We might fear loss of respect from our peers or subordinates. So these leaders may appear tough on the outside, but in reality, their fears and insecurities kind of send a message that they don't want anyone to disagree with their views. And unfortunately, if you've ever worked with this type of leader, it can kind of be exhausting and even demoralizing. When servant leaders have a high level of self-awareness, they listen first. They listen with courage, and they look for truth behind the feedback. They take the good feedback to heart so they can improve an outcome. And when they do, they gain the trust of others. And then that's when people in organizations flourish. Well, thanks for subscribing. If you haven't yet, click on our homepage at leadershipfromthecore.com and sign up there to get a bunch of cool free stuff like these video blogs, and also to receive a free download to one of our popular teleseminars, The Top 5 Things Every Leader Must Do to Keep Employees Happy and Motivated. If you're in a manager position, this is a must. Or just click on the link below and sign up now. See you next time.